Welcome to the Fitness Mindset Podcast. My name is Amanda Micallef and I am the Head Coach and Director for Divine Physiques Coaching here in Melbourne, Australia. This podcast is for anybody who is struggling to stick to their fitness journey and is searching for a far more practical set of tools and strategies on how to stay the course long term, because most of you should all know by now that motivation is in fact nothing more than a temporary emotion. What you will learn from any of the guests on the show is that they have all battled with their own setbacks and have had to learn practical means on how to come out on top and succeed. I hope this podcast helps you along your own journey, and I thank you for tuning in today. Welcome back, guys. Episode number 11 of the Fitness Mindset Podcast. I'm joined today by Aaron Scarborough from Iron Revolution here in East Keilor in Melbourne, Victoria. Mate, welcome. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, got you loud and clear.
Awesome, mate. So just quickly before we get stuck into it, so for people that don't know who you are, Aaron, so you've been in the fitness industry for about 15 years now, correct? Yeah, awesome.
That is correct, yes.
Cool.
15,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time now. So you've worked as a personal trainer and strength and conditioning coach for both individual sports clubs and some of the largest strength sports organisations in the world. So big credit to you. You specialise in strongman and powerlifting programs for individual and athletic development, and anyone who basically wants to get stronger, leaner, more muscular and experience the real meaning of functional strength. And you pretty much spearhead the Arnold Strongman Australia, and you host the country's biggest strongman competitions featuring some of the biggest names from around the world and in Australia. So welcome, Aaron. So tell us how it all started. What got you involved in the fitness industry?
Wow, it was many moons ago now. Obviously, I've been around for about 15 years. So look, I've always had a pretty big interest in health and fitness through various different sports and, team and individual sporting endeavours. So I was always drawn towards, I think, strength and discipline from a young age. I was into martial arts like many kids do. You know, when I was young, I wanted to grow up to be a ninja. Which sort of led toward, getting involved in more serious martial arts and really enjoyed the discipline and the physical challenges of those, competing in like karate and Muay Thai and that kind of thing. When I was younger, it wasn't as much a team sport thing that I was interested in as that individual stuff, just till I got a bit older. And then the team sports started to really appeal to me. So like I originally got into the industry sort of wanting to bide some time before I decided what I wanted to do with my life. And I thought I'd want to travel and do sort of potentially go to the army or just do something different for a while before I opened a gym. I think from like early on, I always wanted to have that sort of health and fitness oriented thing as the later stages in life. And then just fell into it. I basically got my PT cert back when it was cert 3, cert 4. We had to go through, I think it was about 4 months worth of stuff. It was a full-time course back then, just before a government accreditation and funding came in. And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then I kind of got lucky. I don't know. I think you think it's all going to be like, oh, it's amazing. I'm going to work with elite athletes and I'm going to do all these wonderful things. And then you realize that you're going to be training stay-at-home mums and corporate dads and everything in between, and it's not that sort of industry, And when you're young, it's not what you want to hear, and it's not what you want to believe either. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been great. I've been fortunate enough to when I started at a fitness first. I worked in a corporate gym for about 10 years, but I was surrounded by sort of guys, coaches, trainers who had been involved in strength conditioning and functional training programs around the world. And they were pretty well travelled in their trade, and then they came back into the sort of corporate PT world after that. But I got to hang with various different guys who, like I said, worked with rugby teams, worked with NFL teams, been involved in powerlifting and strongman stuff in the States, and it was eye-opening for me. I fell in love with it, and then as time progressed, I sort of moved away from the corporate stuff more into my own endeavours here. So I've worked at a few other facilities around the place over the years. Once I left the corporate gym, worked at Transformation Gym, worked at like a little PT studio where we had some strongman and strength focused stuff, and then sort of I reached a point where I'm like, it's either do or die time. I've got to either do things my way, open up a place and really start pushing the stuff that I believe in hard, or it's time to walk away from it. And here we are 4 years after opening Iron Revolution, and things have never been better.
So it took you a while to get to Iron Revolution. So it was probably a good 11 years working for other people.
Yeah.
And would you say it was a case of really trying to find your niche in the industry?
I think so, definitely. And I think also back then there wasn't as much of that stuff available. So even if I think 4 years ago, when I first opened IR, what sort of equipment we had access to. Now it's every commercial gym has 24/7 access. They have bumper plates, they have Olympic weightlifting platforms, and more than one squat rack that's not even a real squat rack that someone's doing bicep curls in. These days it's really sort of grown and expanded, and we still do curls in the racks here too. But it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot. So I think it's easier now because there's a lot more variety. There's a lot more places, like CrossFit's really opened things up a lot for the whole industry, love it or not. That's the reality of it. Powerlifting's a booming sport these days. Strongman, strongwoman is really pumping now in large part to what we've been able to do over the last sort of 5-6 years with it. And it's all growing rapidly. So I think it's a bit easier to niche down some of the more unconventional pathways, such as these strength sports.
Yeah. So what attracted you to specialize in strongman? Because I did a bit of a search online, and your gym seems to be the only one in Melbourne that really specializes in strongman. So am I wrong in saying that? Is there anyone else in Melbourne that's really doing it?
There are a couple of places that offer the services, but none like we do. Like a big part of when the business opened was it was going to be half powerlifting, half strongman. So it really does have a major strongman, strongwoman training focus on it. But it needs the other elements to support it. I think I'll keep telling people this who have tried to open strongman gyms, that you can't just have a pure strongman facility, because the sport doesn't kind of work that way. We've been fortunate with being involved with the Arnolds, and sort of me refusing to let go of growing it when everyone was at a point where I was like, man, this is is this going to work? I think it was about 2 years in, sort of had a bit of a lull with it, but it was just part of a transition phase, I think. So we've been around since 2014. Prior to that, I was training out of a small little studio warehouse where we had I had 4 stones. I bought my first Atlas stones there. I remember going to pick them up in the back of my dad's station wagon, and they were rolling around in the back and
creating damage.
Creating damage. That's why it was his car, not mine. And had a log, a yoke, a set of farmer's handles, and we started there. But just with the basics. And now I've got 4 or 5 logs, multiple yokes, multiple everything, because we do everything in pairs training or in the group format. So there are other places around Melbourne that still offer some. There's a place down Geelong where a friend of mine owns that. They do some strongman stuff there, and it's more of a commercial gym that does have strongman equipment. And there's another place out in the east that's very similar, whereas we're a strength and conditioning facility that we powerlifting and strongman is the specialty, and then we have people who train here for normal things as well, rather than it kind of being the other flip around.
Yeah, right. Okay. So so you were saying a couple of years ago you really started to question whether it was going to work out or not. Was it because the sport itself just wasn't as popular at the time and it's kind of just grown rapidly, or because it is quite a definitive niche, and powerlifting does have some good crossover into strongman and vice versa. So what do you think it was back then that you thought, oh, are we doing the right thing?
I think it was, like you said, as the sport was growing, there was no real direction with it. It wasn't going anywhere. So if we talk about powerlifting, for example, it's been a global sport since the 70s. It's had 30 years to sort of develop and have its highs and lows, and it's at a new boom now, whereas strongman has never really been like that. It was around back in the early 80s. 1979 was the first World's Strongest Man competition. But it's always been for the freaks and the giants. You know, it's never been perceived as accessible. It's always had this element of secrecy about it. It's always been very hard to access. So people would see, the pulling an aeroplane and go, "There's no way I could do that." You know, and not everyone's a 6'10" Viking from Iceland that weighs 200 kilos. Whereas nowadays, correct. You know,
yeah, that was my cat. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all right. You're all right. So yeah, there's that element to it, and we've really been able to open it up in the last 4 years. There's weight divisions now. You've got, under 65 kilo female division all the way through to men's heavyweight division now. So it just has opened it. And like I said, the change in the industry with more facilities having access to the equipment has made it definitely more achievable for people to get to them. So I've still got clients that travel from all over Victoria to come and train with us. We've got people who come from Seymour down, that's over an hour drive. We've got people come from Frankston, Geelong, all around the place to come and train with us once a week on Saturday in this big group training thing. So I sort of liken it to other sports. If you think about it as like, playing football or, one of those other sort of weekend warrior sports, when they come up to do event training on Saturday, that's like the competition. It's the sporting side of it for us. And everything else they do during the week is the preparation for that. So we program for people who train here at the gym. We've got access to specialist equipment we can use. I program for people who train out of their garage with a barbell, a rack and some plates and whatever else they can get their hands on to come here and train strongman once a week. And, people who train at commercial gym during the week as well, all that kind of stuff. But we've got a really good team vibe here, and it's a good community. It's like a family, big family here at IA. It's been a big part of what we've focused on developing over the years, and I think it's helped grow it. And the whole sport of strongman does have that same culture. That's a big part of what I think draws people toward it. Once they come to an event, they see it, they see the cheering, the support that someone who they've never met before is getting from this entire crowd, everyone wanting to see them succeed. It's been a really rewarding sort of rewarding sport to be involved in that respect.
Okay, that's great. So so you're the leading presenter for the Arnold Australia Strongman competition at the moment. So obviously that makes IR the go-to strongman gym in Melbourne, but how has that sort of been pivotal in your career?
It was actually a really big turning point for me. So I have a tendency to throw myself right into things. They made the joke about wanting to be a ninja thing when I was a kid. And sort of when I got into martial arts, that was my life. I became obsessed with the culture behind it. I became obsessed with the training. I became obsessed with every aspect of it. It was the same when I got into motorbikes when I was older, and I wanted to be a motocross superstar, and I was going to race, and I was going to do all this stuff. And, and then back then I could name every brand bike, every component, everything, just real obsessed with the whole culture. And it's what happened with strongman. I'd always been fascinated by it. I'd had these idols growing up because to me they looked like Mariusz Pudzianowski's one, Bill Kazmaier, these old school guys that are from a bygone era, but they looked like bodybuilders, but they performed like the Incredible Hulk. They could run, pull planes, lift things. It was against the norm, and I thought that was, to me, like the ultimate kind of achievement, to be able to look like you lift and to actually lift. So there was always that part of it that really drew me toward it. And getting involved with the strongman, I said very early on, if I was going to start running competitions and events, that one day I would be running all of it. Like would be my intention. If I wanted to get involved, I'm here for the long haul. I'm not just going to get involved, do a bit of fun, make some money out of it and get out, because there's no money. There's no one makes any real money out of it, but I wanted it to be part of my lifestyle. So that's been the big step forward. And the turning point was getting involved with the Arnolds in particular and the organisation, and to see how they run events and how they treat the business side of things was a real turning point for me, because previous relationships I'd had with people, I realised how toxic they were and how it wasn't really working forward toward the greater good for what we wanted to achieve with the sport and also with my business. So Did a bit of culling back then, and since then it's been a really good step forward. You know, the sport's really grown. My business has been able to grow. Everything that we've done as part of it has really been able to grow now.
So how many years have you been involved in the Arnolds for?
This would be the first Australian Arnold's was 2015. I competed in that and assisted in running the pro strongman. And it was later that year when I took over running Australia's Strongest Man. That was the first sort of me stepping up. Basically, we found out 2 weeks before the competition that someone who was meant to have been organising a lot of it and essentially being in my role now hadn't done any of it and had decided that they couldn't be bothered or whatever reason. Just I think things came up and they didn't sort of value it. So I had a chance to step up, put my hand up, and haven't looked back since. Cool. After that first meeting, and that was full steam ahead. So we've run 4 Australia's Strongest Man competitions. Since then, I've introduced Australia's Strongest Woman as well, running as part of it. So for the last 2 years, it's been, I think, a big achievement because it's created that same stepping stone for the ladies to be able to step up on the same platform as the men and, you know, show that this is the real deal. And I've been running the Arnold since. So 2016, Arnold Australia was my first one there. Then we've done 17 and 18. I was involved in running the Arnold Hong Kong. Got to go to Ohio this year to be involved with the big Arnold Pro World Championship. That was pretty amazing.
It's awesome.
And just moving forward from here, we've just wrapped up Australia's Strongest Man and Woman this year. That was a few weeks ago. That was when we were originally meant to meet. I think it was the week after to do this interview, and it just wasn't going to happen. So it's all wrapped up now. We've got we've got Victoria's Strongest coming up in 2 weeks. And then the road to the Arnold's in March begins for us. It's 140 days or something like that. And we've chosen the events already. We start doing the weights. Most of the equipment's been built. We'll start doing videos on how to perform the movements, how they're going to be refereed. We want to make sure that things are pretty clear because we've started to, you know, the events have grown. Things have gotten a bit more complex over the last few years in terms of the type of events we're able to put on. So we want to make sure it's very clearly understood by everyone when we get out there. So, you know, rules, and it's what I like about strongman is it's not a uniform sport. With powerlifting, you've got calibrated weight plates, as in they all weigh 25.00 kilogram if it's a 25 or a 20. And the barbells are this specification. Everything's to an exact standard.
To a T, yeah.
In strongman, it's what you get. You know, and we try and create an element of uniformity to it so that people can train safely and better prepare for things. But there's got to be some of that unknown there, you know.
So it's kind of like CrossFit in a sense where, like CrossFit Games, for example, they've just got to train as hard as they can because they don't know necessarily what to expect on the day. Like the equipment you've been training with in your gym may not necessarily be a strong reflection of what you'll have on the day.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the things I think has actually helped with our success is taking some of the elements that have really worked well for CrossFit and trying to incorporate it into what we do. So, you know, I always find it amusing when people have, you know, these negative things to say about it. Because I've worked in the commercial gym for 10 years. It's still what I saw over those first 10 years are far, far, far worse than any of the CrossFit fail videos I've seen on YouTube or anything like that, you know? And
100%.
The reality is just really, it's caused this boom in barbell sports. You know, a lot of the success that we have for all the sports can be contributed towards people getting involved in CrossFit, you know? The sport, it's on TV, Reebok sponsor it, they run these multi-million-dollar things. You can't sit there and go, well, it's stupid, it doesn't work. Well,
some of the bodies on those girls though, like, I mean, like you look at Tia Claire, for example, like she's just an amazing athlete, such a weapon, all of them though, like, and it's hard to tell whether they're actually natural or not, but like, you know, it just like, they're just absolute beasts, just the way they look, the way they lift. And, you know, it's a credit to the sport. Like, like those pull-ups look ridiculous, for example, but everything else, like doing the Olympic lifts and doing it repeatedly, like, man, that takes some grueling training to get to that point. So hate it or
Absolutely.
not,
Yeah.
I mean, exceptional athletes, and people can't really argue
Absolutely
with
got to
that.
respect it. You got to respect it. You know, the physiques are amazing. The amount of work that they put in. Well, I think it's also done a great job at showing people, you know what, we didn't think it was possible before because science or, you know, whatever study said you can't train for these three things at the same time and be successful.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you've got these guys coming out and doing it because they just don't know any different, you know. And
Yeah.
would they be elite in any one of those individual sports if they were to specialise in it? Maybe not. Well, Tia Claire, for example, just won an Olympic Commonwealth gold medal and CrossFit Games. She's done pretty well for herself, I think.
Not bad for
you know,
25 years old. She's done all right.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. You know, so it's I think it's a big booming thing, and you got to be ready for anything. And that's strongman. That's why I laugh too, because people go, oh, you know, strongman is the same, but with heavier weights and more risk. You know, like you'll literally see some competitors bending over backwards trying to press a weight out over their head. But because of the size of them, they won't say anything. But if you look at what's actually happening to their body, what they're putting at risk, it's far worse than a couple of kipping pull-ups where someone might, you know, dislocate a shoulder.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So it's accepted that you could potentially create more damage in strongman because of the sheer size of these people. It doesn't mean that they're not as prone to injuries as someone who's a CrossFitter.
No, not at all.
Leaner. So
absolutely, you know, even the smaller people I've seen. Sorry,
is there like a big injury rate in strongman that you've seen?
When I say an injury rate, I would say not severe injuries. You do tend to get in recent years there would be like bicep tears and bicep strains, as well as pec tears and pec strains are pretty common, just because of the nature of the events. So, you know, you're trying to pick up a round concrete stone, for example, an Atlas ball, Atlas stone. If it slips, you're trying to pull it in toward your body, so your biceps are contracting maximally. If it slips and forces the arm away, that's the number one cause of bicep tears.
Yeah,
when the muscle's being contracted and it's forcefully extended. You know, there's those mostly strains and aches and back-related injuries. You know, so strains, muscular strains, facet joint injuries, some small disc injuries, that type of stuff. Just from it's a very back-dominant, extensor-dominant sport with all the events you do. You know?
Yeah. Okay. So then, do you have a lot of prehab work in with your clients' programming where you look at obviously strengthening your erectors? You know, how do you condition a client's biceps and back, for example, to be able to handle the stress of an Atlas stone?
Yeah, well, the guys like it because they get bicep curls, you know, 4 days a week type thing. And it all depends on where they sort of lack, I guess, you know, and it comes down to prioritizing things. So most of the time when I do a program, the gym program for whatever event we've got coming up, because we run in-house competitions. So we've got testing days as well as in-house competitions. And if someone's not working towards a big goal like the Arnold's or Australia's Strongest, then that's what we build the programs around, because we're working towards, you know, continual progress and just getting better, getting stronger. So those programs might be, say, like a 5-day-a-week program that I do to be able to fit in everything that we want to do. The reality is, and you know, I've discovered this myself the last 12 months, that 2 young children, business and everything else in between, 3 days a week is pretty much my standard that I can commit to these days with any decent level of training. So we condense it down to those 3 days, you know, and just trying to fit everything in is where it becomes tricky. But that's part of the coaching and programming side of it, is prioritizing what the individual needs and what's important for them to get better. You know, and we're not all special snowflakes. There's pretty much, you know, like a set formula for success in these things. If you want to get a bigger squat, you've got to squat. If you want to get a bigger deadlift, you're going to have to deadlift. But choosing the right type of cues for the person, choosing the right type of lift for the individual, choosing the right sort of programming structure makes a big difference in that, in injury prevention, and just making sure that they get the basics right first, you know. So we get the basics right, and if injuries or niggles arise, then we focus on addressing them and correcting them so that we can avoid them as much as possible. Some things you can't avoid, like if you drop an Atlas stone on your foot, your foot's going to be you know, that's going to be pretty nasty. But you know, you can avoid a lot of the silly injuries that people get from training, just from not overdoing it and being smart about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever had to
Yeah.
deal with a
So
serious injury in the gym?
that's a big one.
To...
But biceps, be a big one. Pecs, be a big one. Lower back
Yep.
strains, a big one.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So can you hear me there?
Yep. Back
Yeah.
now.
Cool. All right. Cool. I was going to say, have you ever experienced an athlete that has sort of had a really bad injury that they've had to really come back from? Like, for example, dropping an Atlas stone on their foot, something pretty serious like that?
Yeah. Definitely. I've had over the years people coming off knee reconstructions, people coming off back surgery. So people with fused spines, or basically, they have a disc injury so severe the disc is permanently damaged. So they have to get surgery to basically get all the faulty, all the damaged tissue removed, and they can fuse the spine. Or there's a few ways that they can address it now, but just right back from basics. So go from lifting crazy amounts of weight back to lifting next to nothing, and then working your way up. Working with a couple of people at the moment with some pretty severe injuries. One of our guys just tore a pec recently, actually, so tore it right off. Pec tendon right off the bone. Yeah, so that's overcoming that one. That'll be good. He's very determined individual, so it'll be fine. But yeah, it's just trying to keep.
How did that happen? Like, how did he tear his pec?
Trying to do a 250 kilo bench press after a heavy log session. So yeah, very strong. But that's sort of, once you get to that stage of training, things can happen. The connective tissue can only be so good.
Yep.
These things happen, but that's a less common one. Or not, because not everyone's in the gym benching 200 plus kilos, but definitely once you reach that certain point, it becomes more of a risk. But the lower back and knee issues can be pretty common in the females, actually, just because of the shape and structure of females tends to be a bit more common for them to have more strain placed on the ACL and the other ligaments in the knee, just from the angle of the hips and how they move if they don't have great movement mechanics. So the last 2 years at Australia's Strongest Woman, actually, we actually had one of the girls do their ACL on the super yoke. So it's a long road to recovery after the ACL, but can most certainly be done.
So what's the recovery process then like for her, for example?
Post-surgery, be just rebuilding from scratch, getting all the muscles of the quadricep developed again, and then just trying to address hip stability is a big one, I think, for them, because you can see sometimes you see some of the athletes walking and it looks like their knees are caving in. So if you think it looks bad when someone's doing a squat, imagine them carrying 300 kilos on their back and the knee looking like it's literally going to break every time it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So just retraining some of the mechanics in the feet, knee, quad, and hip structures. So the foot, knee, hip line, just trying to get them better aligned and work on creating better stability. So lots of single leg exercises and just lots of general strength work just to build up, hypertrophy work, building up the muscle in the area, building up stability in the area, and then slowly getting them moving again.
Yeah, right. Okay. Pretty full on. So if we start to sort of go over to a bit more of the culture now with the gym. So do you find there's a common personality trait in the clients that you attract to IR?
It's a tough one. I really, to be honest, this is one I've struggled with a lot over the years with the, I'm not sure how much of this will make sense, but talk about from a business development perspective, you try and build your client avatar, like what would be your ideal client, this age to that age, male, female, how many kids, all that kind of stuff. And I think we do tend to have some common traits with the majority of the members, but I've always been big on, strongman's for everyone, powerlifting's for everyone. So it doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, doesn't matter what sort of background you have, as long as you're here to get results, then that's the main common trait that we want to see,
Yeah.
Whether that results a 3 kilo lift or 300 kilo lift, I don't care. It's the same, and try and be big on that sort of environment here. So I think because some of the common traits we have is just a love for lifting, love for the strength sport, and a sense of that determination of wanting to overcome you know, an immovable force or an immovable object. You know, the sense of reward for it is really, really self-fulfilling, I think, too. People really get this sense of, wow, I was able to do it.
Yeah.
One of the girls I trained last night, she's a great example. I've always used Rachel. She's, I don't want to even attempt the age because I'll get it terribly wrong, but let's just say she's a middle-aged or older female than some of our 20-year-old clients. Never been to a gym before she started here, never lifted weights, and thought it would be a good way for her to get some confidence up and help with her son, who's very shy, and, you know, try and get him out there and say, hell, you know, mum can do some sport as well. And see all these people of different shapes and sizes lifting on the internet. So she got involved. And I remember she was really excited that the prospect of her being able to squat a blue plate one day, a 20 kilo plate with either side, so 60 kilos on the squat one day. She's like, oh, I would be amazed if I could do that. That was a year ago, and now she's squatting 120 kilos, benched for reps, benching 75 kilos for reps, and just did 160 kilo deadlift last night. She didn't realize 160.
So envious right now. That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's great. It's someone who never thought that they would be able to lift anything, or thought, you know, how good would it be to be able to.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And how long has she been with you guys now?
12 months. Yeah.
So in 12 months, she's been able to do that. That's whatever you're doing for her is obviously working incredibly. So credit to you, mate. That's some serious results right there. So did she ever come for like weight loss goal, or was more so just so it was obviously to show her son that she, you know, it could be done. But was it just to feel that bit better, a bit stronger?
Yeah, definitely. So less weight loss driven goals at our gym, most certainly. Yeah. It's more about the strength achievement. Yeah. You know, so it's that achieving, just getting stronger. And one of the reasons I created a strength standard system that we use for people to work towards trying to achieve their goals is because a lot of people, I'm sure if you've worked with weight loss clients, it's the same. They go, I just want to lose weight. Well, what does that mean? How much weight do you want to lose? You know, and it's very hard for them to paint a picture sometimes. But with weight, people always can refer back to the scales or fitting in a dress size or something. But with getting stronger, if you don't have a definitive strength standard, or you don't have a specific goal, it can be very difficult to put a number on it. Because what's strong? People don't perceive it sometimes as well. Like in strongman, one of the selling points for it and what makes it entertaining is the visual aspect. So regardless of how big a concrete stone is or what it weighs, people look at it and they go, holy shit, that's a concrete stone. Yeah. You know, that must be heavy, because people have picked up a rock before and they know how heavy a little rock can be. So this big rock, or pulling a truck. Truck pull is actually a really easy event once you understand the physics behind it, but it looks amazing. Whether it's people, oh my God, they pulled a truck, you know, and it's
not as hard as it looks.
Visually impressive. Not as hard as it looks. No. There are definitely, like, the heavier the truck, the harder it is, but it's not as hard as it looks. Yeah. So it's having those sort of achievement targets for people, whether it's like a body weight squat or 1.5 times body weight squat or something like that, just helps give them something more tangible to work towards, and they can chip away at it and go, oh, well, you know, did 5 kilos more this week, I did 5 kilos more next week, and in 8 weeks I'm there. Wow, I thought it was going to take me a year. So you've got to have some type of driving force behind it. So as long as you've got those little goals for them, I think that's easier for them to put a value on.
So you've developed quite a good system by the sounds of it, where you are getting clients to progress quite rapidly through the system itself. Is this a system which you've pretty much developed through your experience of working with different coaches, or being coached yourself, or just sort of seeing what other coaches have been doing, and kind of just put it into your own little package?
Yeah, definitely. All of the above is the answer to that. I think we all have more favorable systems that we like, or, you know, we all have our favorite strength coaches or training methods. And it's important to use what works for you and discard what doesn't, you know. So for different individuals, that changes as well. Sometimes some systems might be more successful with one type of person than another. And there's really no predetermining factor for that. It's just a lot of it's trial and error in that, you know, you start to get a better idea of what will work for some people rather than others. So for example, the client I was just talking about, you know, trying to put her on one of this training programs that's going to take 2 hours a day, 4 days a week is just not going to happen because of time commitments and other sorts of restraints. Whereas some of the, you know, younger, more youthful clients I have that are students or have part-time jobs or have all the time in the world, they, you know, can do that because they can sleep for 10 hours a day and eat whenever they want and do that stuff, you know. So it's been a long process getting to where we are, and the system that we've got here, it's an ever-changing system. That's why people get frustrated when they ask me, oh, what should I do for this and what should I do for that? My answer 99% of the time is it depends. Because it does. Just depends on so many different factors. But I'm big on sort of giving credit where it's due, and I don't think anything that we do is new. It's just combining it in a package that works for people, you know. Like there's training methods that are becoming, you know, trendy now were probably a big hit 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago. It's like fashion, you know, things come in and out of fashion.
Constantly
as well.
evolving.
Yeah. So
definitely.
We use what works and sort of try and discard what doesn't, and try new things. Sometimes you think this is going to be awesome, this is going to be amazing, and you're like, wow, that did not work at all, or that did not do what we hoped. Let's not do that ever again. You know, we sort of take it from there.
I was actually just listening to a really good podcast with JPS, and the two boys were chatting about coaching powerlifters and physique athletes, and that when you do take on a new athlete, that half the time it is kind of guesswork. Like you are just sort of seeing what's going to work best for the client, and that even though you have a system in place, that your system is not necessarily a magic bullet, or you don't always have the answers as a coach, and you have to understand your athlete over a period of time. And I think this is what a lot of athletes need to understand, is that, you know, we want them to work with us for 6 to 12 months minimum, because we need to really understand everything from their injuries to their history to what they're capable of, what agrees with them, and all the rest of it. So half the time it is coach's intuition for a period of time, and then after that you kind of nail it with your clients because it's trial and error, isn't it?
Absolutely. And yeah, like I think you hit the nail right in the head there. If they understood it, and it would be so much easier. And there are many clients that do, but there are also a lot of them who, like, you know, to their own credit, they want to achieve so much, but it's just sometimes they need to have the reality check that, hey, you know, that's great, but we've got to chip away at that. You're not going to achieve, you're not going to go from on the couch to Mr. Olympia or on the couch to World's Strongest Man in 12 months. It's not going to happen. You know, you're not going to go from on the couch to state champion in a year, let alone to the best in the world, you know. And it's all part of the process, and I think it's important that they understand why they're doing it in the first place. And then if they can sort of get that sort of underlying emotive right, then it becomes easier to always come back to that and just keep chipping away and working towards them. And trial and error, definitely. And it's not a bad thing. Most professions, it's the same. You have the tools in your toolbox that you want to use with people, but sometimes you can't determine which one you need to use until you delve further into the problem.
Yeah, so absolutely. So have you had to do much mindset work with your clients in the past?
Yes and no. So like, I think what's been a big help in the last 4 years is having the gym here that has the sort of culture that we have, because I think it's easier for people to walk into a place like this and see, you know, when it's empty, it's far scarier than it is when it's pumping. You know, when it's busy, people see the environment, they can sort of feel the culture, go, wow, this is really cool. Everyone's getting behind it. It's very supportive. Whereas you walk in and there's clunking iron and this dark factory, and like right now when there's only 2 people here, it's a lot more intimidating. So previously, in environments that aren't, I would say, the best for producing great results or, performance-based athletes from, I think it's really got to keep mindset as a big part of it, because you've got to keep them coming back to, you're doing this for you. Don't pay attention to what's happening over there. Don't pay attention to what's happening here. You're doing this for you. Keep moving forward. In a place like we've got here now at IR, the culture is one of support, one of community, one of strength, and respecting achievement and what's the word? Rewarding achievement, no matter how big. So I think that helps a lot with mindset when you know that you're going to go in and you're going to do something, and people are going to be like, wow, congratulations, that's awesome. You achieved so much, whether it's 3 or 300, the perspective needs to be for that individual. So mindset's a huge part. And I think it's one I've probably been able to get away with focusing less on since having the gym compared to beforehand in a different culture, different environment. Yeah.
Working in commercial gyms is like, it's such a big proponent of the journey, isn't it? The gen poppers where, they just struggle to get out of bed and get to the gym. And that's, that is all about their mindset. So you are in that fortunate position where you do have I guess a standard of people that come in and they know what to expect. So either the look of the gym is either going to attract or repel those sort of people, I think, straight away. And you're probably more inclined to just attract the ones that, have a bit of fire in them and want that competitive environment, but at the same time, very supportive, very grounded, and very much like a family at the same time. So yeah.
Spot on. Definitely. Yeah. The commercial one, it's a different setting, or it can be. It's not to say that they're all the same, but it's being able to create that in the space as a whole has been a huge part of our success, I think.
Was it a breath of fresh air for you when you left the commercial gym environment? Because I've recently just left commercial gym myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a boxing / strength gym now, because those are my 2 specialties, and it's definitely refreshing. So how did you find it when you left that sort of setting and you stepped into essentially your own brand, your own gym?
Amazing. It was amazing. So when I first left Fitness First, I went to a place called Result Based Training, or RBT.
RBT, yep. Which one?
So South Melbourne. So I was there when about a month after it first opened. So spent I think 2 or 3 years at RBT. It was a really eye-opening process for me, getting more involved with management side of things as well as training, and just being in a different environment, being around people with similar goals, and just being out of that commercial setting. I was very fortunate that the location of it wasn't too far away from my existing sort of corporate clients, and all but one were able to follow. So the only thing that changed for me initially was the environment. Like, I was still training the same clients. I was just able to do different things. I was able to work towards different goals. So we were able to try and achieve these results in a different setting, and it was great. And then it was sort of time for me to move on from that one. Wanted to get more into a strength-based setting rather than the transformation style setting. And that was when things sort of led me to where I am now. So worked in a small little studio where we had basically an office for a supplement company I was trying to build at the time, and we're in like a what's the word they use for these things these days, like a collaborative, a collab environment where we had a few different companies there, and it was a lot of fun. And then I knew after that, I was kind of like, man, I need a gym. I need my own gym. I need to be able to do the strongman stuff. I want to run comps. I want to be able to, grow it as a whole. And so it was a breath of fresh air, but stepping out and like signing the lease papers and taking on all the financial burden and working with someone else and doing all those things, it was breath of fresh air. But at the same time, I was like, whoa, are we really doing this now? Is it?
Yeah. So talk about a little bit about that, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up. Was it a very scary process for you?
I'm going to say not initially, because I don't think I realised just how much work it was going to be. So it wasn't scary at first because I was very naive about the whole thing. But in saying that, learnt a lot from it. I think your mistakes are your greatest teachers, and it's important to listen to their lessons. If I could do it again differently, I would, but it's not fair to put that sort of tone on the situation, because there's a very different situation now, the industry, compared to 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, when we inquired about 24/7 access for the facility, we were laughed at, like literally laughed at by the insurance company. Whereas at the end of this month, I'm officially launching IA will be 24/7 access for all members.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, it's great. And things have changed a lot. So I think if you have...
Sorry, Aaron, was that a really difficult
No,
process
you're right.
with the insurance companies? Because, I mean, you've got a lot of heavy equipment there, and obviously there's
Yeah,
some big risk. What sort of, like, how long have you sort of been applying for 24-hour access?
I was going to do it 6 months ago, and just was not the right timing. I was just too busy with other things got in the way. I wasn't able to put the right research into getting things set up. And a friend of mine actually converted his place sooner. Once I got a bit of a better idea about what I needed to get from a safety perspective, a procedures perspective, and just get how to operate the business differently in place and what we needed. It was a pretty straightforward process now. I think it's a majority of gyms will be 24/7 access within the next 5 years, or they will be either very specialised or very struggling.
Yeah, so you feel very strongly about that, even like for PT studios, where they're, heavily appointment based, that if they don't have that 24-hour access, that it could really be detrimental to the business overall.
Depends on their business model. So if they're one, like, I'd classify that as a very specialised setting. So like if you're purely an appointment-based business, then there's no need for it. But if you've got a facility that you're basically paying for, and you've got 50% of the time that you could be earning money from it and you're not, I think you'd be silly not to explore it. And being the sort of work that we do, it's very specialised here, and vast majority of our training here is appointment based or online. So the new membership system, the new business model is going to be basically membership, personal training, and online coaching, with a couple of sort of team/group training sessions available during the week for certain levels of membership, which is like the Strongman Saturday session. There'll be some powerlifting comp prep sessions during the week for those who are in competition prep, you need, like, I like to wrap my own knees when I squat, but I'm a terrible squatter and I'm not a great powerlifter. So, if I was competing, I'd probably want one of the guys wrapping my own knees, and operating a monolift. It's a 3-person job. You need a spotter, someone to do the gate, and there's someone squatting, So we've got that sort of stuff available as well. But with us just branching out and specialising in these areas has really helped create a bit of focus on the results we can get, I think. And same as the facility, the business now, people know what they're getting very clearly. The culture's been great. It's been a big shift forward. So I'm really happy with it. Yeah,
good stuff. So are you still competing yourself, strongman or powerlifting, or have you stepped away from the spotlight?
I haven't stepped away. It's been difficult. So, probably very much in the same sense of when I opened the gym, I thought, grouse, 2 years, be able to basically step right back from the business. I'll have 3 coaches working for me, probably be able to get a new car and take the family holiday once a year and all that kind of stuff. And 4 years in, things are going well, but that plan kind of didn't pay off exactly as we'd hoped for. It's the same as with the competition side. When I started running the competitions, definitely thought I'd planned on taking sort of 2 years, stepping back from competing at the higher level, which is where I want to be competing. And it's taken a bit longer to get things working well enough for me to be able to step right back from those events. So still doing some competitions, doing things more for fun. Like I recently did a charity yoke event here at the gym. So the super yoke's on carrying a big frame on your shoulders, or a car carry style thing. Injured myself doing a 400 kilo yoke run. So I've just popped something in my back. First time I'm doing that actually, but I haven't been training for the yoke. So like I'm still at a level where I can step in and be competitive, I think. So the plan will be next year. We're in a much better place now in terms of referees, other officials, and people stepping up, being involved with the Arnolds as well as other competitions that I'm running. It's creating more opportunities for me to be able to get back into the competition scene, which is great. So I'm actually doing a team competition in November with one of my other clients. We did it last year, a male and female strongman competition.
Yep.
So we won that one last year, and it's a good fun event. Lots of Victorian strength community gets involved, and we're back up there. It's in Ballarat at the 25th of November, so that's that. And I've got another comp in Wangaratta on the 5th of January to be a strongman comp. So this will be the first one that I can really train focused on that, and want to do really well. So that'll be good.
Good luck for it. I hope you kick ass, mate. So do you personally have a lot of local and national record holders within the gym, both male and female? So amongst your members?
Yes, we do actually. So we've got quite a few good powerlifting records. Powerlifting's a funny one because we've got like a different federations. So you have federation records and all-time records.
Yep.
So we've got a few of those here at the gym, men and women. The strongman side, we've had some really good ones over the years as well. So definitely
good stuff.
Got some good representation.
Good. Sorry, I had to change locations because I had to throw the laptop on charge.
No, you're right.
All right, cool. So just quickly, just to wrap up, Aaron, so do you discuss the workshops that you've got coming up, if you have any workshops coming up? Like, so for anyone that wants to sort of take their lifting to the next level, or wants to get involved in some strongman or any of the powerlifting events, what have you got coming up at the moment?
So at the moment, we've just sort of wrapping up the calendar for this year. So I've got a couple of comps coming up very soon. Where we've got Victoria's Strongest Man and Woman in 2 weeks. 2 weeks after that, we've got our last novice powerlifting competition. We've got a special event we do in December called the Super Total, which we're just running in-house this year, where it's 6 lifts on day, maximum squat, maximum bench press, maximum deadlift, maximum yoke carry, maximum log, and maximum Atlas stone lift as well. So that's was a really popular annual event last year. This year we're running it again, just not advertising it as much this year because I'll keep it a bit of a quieter one because it's a very long day. But our full calendar of events will be up on the Iron Revolution website next week for the next 12 months. So we run a few competitions a year, 3 powerlifting comps, 3 strongman comps a year that are open to anyone of any level is able to participate in them. They're really fun days. People get to experience the full vibe of what it's like here at the gym. I do 2 powerlifting and 2 strongman workshops a year, which are our introductions to the basic concepts we teach in both those sports, and sort of a foundational movements, I guess you'd call it, for both those pathways. We've got a couple of different training options. Online platform will be launching a bit more seriously next month. We're getting a lot more online members and people wanting to be a part of the programming that we do. So that can be done anywhere in the country or the world. People train for those strength challenge events that we run, and got some really good systems going out there for that. And people being able to check in, get online feedback, so they can do our programs from anywhere. They don't just have to be here face to face.
Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you and grab a program, or look on your workshops, what's the best way to get in touch?
Just dropping us email at aaron@ironrevolution.com.au, or just inquire through the website. So at the moment, it's pretty much me handling everything. I have a couple of coaches stepping up to get on board next year, but all the business side of things will still be handled by me, and overseeing all the programs that we run here at the gym. So I'll always be the first point of contact for people, and that's the best way. Hit us up online, either Facebook, Instagram, or the web is the best way to find us.
Easy done. Okay, I'll plug all of that below, guys, so please check Aaron out. So he's very specialised gym. They seem like they've got a really strong community out there. So Aaron, thank you so much for jumping on today. I really appreciate your time. I know that you've got a lot on your hands with everything at the moment. So it's been really awesome interviewing coaches more at a local Melbourne level. So getting to know our local talent a lot more. So thanks again, mate. Did you want to sort of say anything before we take off?
Look, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak. I can waffle on a bit once I get started, but just love talking about it all. Love everything that we do. So what you see is what you get. This is how it is here at the gym as well. And it's been a pleasure to get the chance to share that with your listeners and viewers.
Excellent, and I hope that obviously once you share this with your guys, that they'll probably learn a few things about you which they may not have known, which sometimes happens when you run interviews and that. So thanks again. Your passion is awesome. Keep making a strong impact in your community, and maybe in the future, Aaron, you and I can chat again soon.
Definitely, it'll be great.
No worries, mate. Hang on the line there. I'll just stop the recording. Thank you so much for watching episode number 11 of the Fitness Mindset Podcast. We'll catch you soon. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you liked the content, please make sure you support the show by giving us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you are the first to know when a new show is being released. I am trying to get up a new show every single week, as I'll continue to bring on interesting guests within the fitness industry who can only bring a lot of value to our listeners. If you're wanting to learn more about coaching with myself, please visit my website at divinephysiquescoaching.com. Thank you once again, and we will catch you on the next episode.